This is the Texas Report, Weekend Edition.
Good evening and thanks for joining us here in the Texas Report. I'm Adam Hammonds. We start off tonight with a massive fire near the Iron Bridge Park near Moody in McLennan County. The Texas Report's Mike Iliopoulos is live at the scene. Mike, what can you tell us?
Yes, Adam, I'm at the staging area on the corner of Meter Grove and Moody Leon Road, where the fire trucks are coming back and forth to fill up water down by the fire. As you can see right behind me in the distance, you can see the fire in the distance. It's been going dim in and out right now. The fire started around 4 p.m. when Moffett Fire Department received the call. It started from a campfire at Iron Bridge Park. The wind is to blame for the start of this wildfire, spreading the flames to at least 100 acres. There are 15 trucks down in the area battling the fire. The fire is not under control. I was told they do not have any idea when the fire will be under control. Multiple fire departments from around the area are out here helping out, and they also called in the Texas Forest Service for assistance.
Very rough area. It's a very complicated area to get into. Now that it's dark, it's going to get 10 times more of a problem and 10 times more dangerous for the crews down in there.
About 4 bulldozers are out here trying to take control of the fire. Now, several homes were evacuated, but the homes should be okay. The whole viewing area is under a red flag warning. It is getting quite windy out here. And also, Moffett Chief Pagel told me that he wouldn't be surprised if this fire would take days to put out. Live in Moody, Mike Iliopoulos, the Texas Report.
This is your First Alert weather.
And unfortunately, the wind's not helping out this evening. Haven't really relaxed much since earlier today. The combination of the lack of rain that we've seen and these strong gusty winds have created that high fire danger not only today, but that high fire danger is going to continue into Monday as well. You can see the winds right now still pretty strong out of the south-southeast, anywhere 21 to 24 miles per hour in Temple. Still getting a few wind gusts higher than that, and temperatures out there not quite as cool. We're only in the low 60s as you take a live look at our Extraco Eagle Eye in downtown Temple, but Bryan College Station has dropped into the 50s. Not only is it going to be windy again tomorrow, it is going to be much warmer. We'll talk about that in the rest of your 7-day forecast coming up.
And 3 people were killed this morning near Houston in a gruesome crash, and 2 of those were Corps Cadet members at Texas A&M. Police say a white Mustang was driving the wrong way on US 290 and hit an SUV carrying 3 18-year-old students from Texas A&M University. The SUV burst into flames and 2 students were killed, with a third sent to the hospital. The driver of the Mustang also died in the crash, and all 3 students were members of A&M's military group, the Corps of Cadets. Police believe alcohol was a factor in the crash after finding beer bottles inside the Mustang. A College Station resident is recovering after being hit by a car earlier this afternoon. 22-year-old Ying Zhu was taken to the College Station Medical Center for incapacitating injuries, according to police. Officials say it happened on the 1700 block of Southwest Parkway when a driver swerved to avoid traffic and hit Zhu as she was crossing the street. No charges have been filed and is pending an investigation. Fort Hood is recognizing a man who helped build Camp Hood in Central Texas. 3 Corps will hold a ceremony tomorrow to name the post's East Gate in honor of Frank W. Mayborn. The gate is located near the intersection of Tank Destroyer Boulevard and Fort Hood Street. The 3 Corps and Fort Hood Commander Lieutenant General Mark Milley will be the keynote speaker for the ceremony. Milley's speech will be followed by the unveiling of the Frank W. Mayborn Monument. Sue Mayborn, Frank Mayborn's widow, will also speak at the ceremony. The parents of Ben Lund will announce a new limited-time reward to try and find their son who's been missing for the last 8 years. Lund was 19 when he went missing in June of 2005, and almost 8 years later, his parents are still hopeful that he's still alive. Lund was last seen at a party, and his car was found abandoned on the 1900 block of Wood Avenue in Killeen. SpaceX's Dragon capsule is now at the International Space Station. The video you're seeing now is the spacecraft docking with the station. The capsule had problems with its thrusters shortly after liftoff Friday morning, and the problem was later fixed, but it did delay the arrival of the spacecraft. And this is the second trip by a Dragon capsule to restock the ISS. The Dragon is carrying more than 1,200 pounds of supplies for the crew and also experiments. A Houston couple is dead after her husband killed his wife, then committed suicide. Houston police say 37-year-old Carl Jackson drove his 18-wheeler to his wife's job yesterday afternoon. He then got out of the truck and started chasing his wife, pulling out a gun and shooting her. 31-year-old Helen Jackson was pronounced dead at the scene. Carl Jackson then got back into his truck and fled the area. And when police found Carl Jackson, he shot himself and died at the scene. And pianist Van Cliburn was laid to rest today in Fort Worth. Around 1,400 people went to Cliburn's memorial service today, including former President George W. Bush. Cliburn passed away on Wednesday after a fight with bone cancer. He had played for every American president since Harry Truman, but he's best known for winning an international competition in Moscow in 1958 at the height of the Cold War. Cliburn was 78 years old. In Florida, the house almost swallowed by a sinkhole is such a shell of its former self tonight. Authorities partially tore it down today, working cautiously toward total demolition while keeping a nervous eye on the ground beneath their feet. ABC's Gio Benitez reports from the scene.
Wrecking crews began to finish what nature had started. Demolition began on what was left of the house that was partly swallowed from within by a giant sinkhole, turning one man's bedroom into an open grave.
The objective here is to try and clear as much of the house as possible. Once they can get a better view, then they can get a sense of what the next step is.
As friends and neighbors comforted one another, a backhoe scooped out of the rooms everything that once made the house a home. Workers took care and extra risk to salvage remnants of the family's home life, some of them reminders of a shattered innocence. Among the items saved, a family Bible.
God works in mysterious ways, and he knew we needed this.
2 other homes have been evacuated in the fear they could also be engulfed by sinkholes. Rescuers have given up hope for 37-year-old Jeff Bush. He is lost 100 feet beneath the earth, his body beyond recovery.
He didn't deserve to go like this.
Jeff's brother Jeremy could not save him.
I'm so sorry that they can't get him out of the home. That's the last place he's going to be.
This was as far as the demolition got today.
We didn't know if any vibrations would maybe set it off to where it would collapse in or not. Surprisingly, it's, everything's holding up.
Officials expect to complete the precarious job Monday, knowing they are literally on shaky ground. Gio Benitez, ABC News, Seffner, Florida.
Coming up next on the Texas Report, First Alert meteorologist Conley Ison will have your full Texas weather forecast. And it's usually the person calling 911 pleading for help. When we return, we hear the horrifying dispatch call out of California. Welcome back. Expectant parents in New York were killed in a car crash earlier this morning, but their baby did survive. 21-year-olds Nathan and Razy Glauber used a car service to get to the hospital to deliver their baby when another vehicle crashed into the side of their car at a Brooklyn intersection. The baby boy was delivered at the scene and taken to a hospital in serious condition, but his parents were pronounced dead in 2 different hospitals. The driver of the vehicle that hit the couple's car fled the scene, and no arrests have been made at this point. Police are trying to figure out if distracted driving led to a wreck in Kentucky that killed 6 people. Police say an 18-wheeler slammed into the back of an SUV yesterday morning, and of the 8 people inside, 6 were killed. The truck driver, who was okay, says he saw the SUV but wasn't able to hit the brakes in time. At 15 minutes after the crash, another pileup took place on the other side of the road. 3 people were hurt. Police say weather was not a factor in either crash. Police in Bakersfield, California have released a shocking 911 call. In it, you can hear the dispatcher pleading with a nursing home staffer. The employee actually refuses to perform CPR on a patient who's having trouble breathing. ABC's Ron Claiborne has more.
Fire department, what's the address for your emergency, please?
What started as a routine medical emergency call soon turned into an intense ethical battle.
They're refusing CPR. They're going to let her die.
87-year-old Lorraine Bayless collapsed in the dining room at Glenwood Gardens, a retirement center and nursing home. The 911 dispatcher tried to give instructions to the caller about how to perform CPR, but the nurse at the facility said it was against facility policy for the staff to do that.
The human being, is there anybody that's willing to help this lady and not let her die?
Not at this time.
No, they won't touch her at all.
The dispatcher pleads with the nurse, repeatedly asking if there was anyone who would perform CPR if the nurse would not.
Anybody there can do CPR. Give them the phone, please. I understand if your facility is not willing to do that, give the phone to that passerby, that stranger that had that vent. This woman's not breathing enough. She's going to die if we don't get this started.
With every passing second, Bayless's chances of survival are diminishing, and the dispatcher's tone turns desperate.
Sarah Gardner or any staff, anybody that doesn't work for you anywhere, can we flag someone down in the street and get them to help this lady?
Bayless was pronounced dead at the hospital. Glenwood Gardens released this written statement. In the event of a health emergency at this independent living community, our practice is to immediately call emergency medical personnel for assistance and to wait with the individual needing attention until such personnel arrives. That is the protocol we followed. But some critics are arguing there are state and federal obligations that the facility did not follow. Many lawsuits and even criminal charges could follow.
Again, that was ABC's Ron Claiborne reporting. Thousands gathered today in Selma, Alabama to commemorate the annual Bridge Crossing Jubilee. The event remembers the Bloody Sunday when voting rights marchers were beaten by state troopers as they marched to Montgomery in March of 1965. And black leaders joined thousands for the annual crossing of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Reverend Al Sharpton told the crowd that the event is not a commemoration of what happened 48 years ago, but a continuation. Attorney General Eric Holder also spoke at the event, saying the struggle for voting rights for all Americans must continue. And when the Texas Report returns, dozens are dead after a car bomb explosion in Pakistan. And a vigilante movement is quickly gaining support in Mexico. The details after this. Welcome back. Russia is concerned over a Texas coroner's report on the death of an adopted boy. 3-year-old Max Shadow died here at his rural home in Odessa back in January. He and his younger brother were both adopted from Russia by an Odessa couple. 4 pathologists and a medical examiner all ruled that the boy died from trauma to the abdomen. The district attorney says it's consistent with a self-inflicted injury. Toxicology tests also came back negative, and the Ector County Sheriff's Office says the parents had previously taken the boy for medical help for a behavioral disorder. A vigilante movement in one Mexico state is gaining momentum after a series of kidnappings in early July. The movement in Guerrero is also known as the community policing, has spread to about a dozen towns. It mostly consists of farmers wearing ski masks and carrying guns while setting up roadside checkpoints. But human rights officials are concerned that the group holds people for questioning for sometimes a weeks at a time. And currently, authorities are letting the vigilantes be despite the government asking to let police take over. At the Vatican tonight, the next chapter in the history of the Roman Catholic Church is underway. As the clock struck noon today, the faithful gathered as usual in St. Peter's Square, but they were met with a closed window where the Pope usually stands.
The people are feeling a little bit discomforted and lonely.
I have been through another Sede Vacante, but the Pope had died. This time the Pope is still in Castel Gandolfo, and so it's a strange feeling.
And tomorrow, cardinals from around the world will meet at the Vatican to begin the process of picking a new pope. They still need to set a date for the conclave to make a decision. A bomb blast killed at least 28 people and wounded dozens of others earlier today in Pakistan. Police officials say the attack happened outside of a Shiite mosque as people were leaving prayer. Men, women, and children were among those killed and wounded. Initial reports suggest the bomb was rigged to a motorcycle, but a survey of the damage suggests there could have been additional explosives at the scene, and no one has claimed responsibility for the attack at this time. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met with Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi earlier today, wrapping up his visit to the deeply divided country. Kerry echoed his message from yesterday, warning that the country's politicians must overcome their differences to get Egypt's faltering economy back on track. The U.S. is deeply concerned that continued instability in the country will have broader consequences in a region already rocked by unrest. Former NBA star Dennis Rodman is speaking out about his recent trip to North Korea. He met with the country's young dictator Kim Jong-un and brought back a message for our commander-in-chief.
He wants Obama to do one thing, call him.
He wants a call from President Obama?
That's right. He told me that. He said, if you can, Dennis, I don't want to do war. I don't want to do war. He said that to me.
Did you say, why don't you pick up the phone and call President Obama?
No, you know, it's a different story. It's a different story because guess what? The kid's only 28 years old. 28.
The eccentric NBA Hall of Famer sat courtside with Kim Jong-un during a made-for-TV basketball game and declared the leader a friend for life. And tomorrow night, the Lady Bears will wrap up the regular season and honor one of the best classes in program history. To come out in sports, Justin will get you set for senior night. Plus, we'll show you how the Baylor men's team plans to bounce back after last night's heartbreaker versus Kansas State. And finally tonight on the Texas Report, thousands of people turned out for the 85th annual Zilker Kite Festival in Austin today. And the weather couldn't have been better. Several contests were held here throughout the day, including steadiest, strongest, and most unusual homemade kites. The festival is one of the capital's best-known annual events, held on the first Sunday of March, and it's a kickoff to hundreds of springtime activities in Austin.
And it'll be good kite flying weather tomorrow as well. Winds will be gusty out of the south-southwest. Unfortunately, the fire danger is going to stay on the high side as well. It's going to be much warmer tomorrow with temperatures climbing into the mid-80s, almost spring-like. It's not going to last, though. A cold front's going to arrive late Monday evening. It's going to go through dry. It is going to cool us off, though, with highs in the 60s for most of this upcoming week. And overnight lows will be dropping back down into the 30s and 40s. We are expecting a light freeze on Wednesday morning. As we head towards next weekend, tracking our next storm system, that'll bring us a chance of some showers and storms, especially on Sunday. And a reminder next weekend on Saturday, turn those clocks ahead 1 hour.
All right, thanks, Conley. That's it for the Texas Report tonight. Join us for Good Morning Texas tomorrow morning. I'm Adam Hammonds.